Newsfeed Now. Coronavirus facts, not fear, begins now.
Good morning on this Wednesday. Thanks so much for joining us for Newsfeed Now. Right dead smack in the middle of the week, but I'm going to say it's a good day just because I was finally able to get my hair cut. Got my hair cut yesterday for the first time in I guess 9 or 10 weeks since the quarantine began. But that's what our focus is all day long, every day when it comes to Newsfeed Now. We're focused on this pandemic, on the coronavirus, on COVID-19. So let's take a look at what's happening across the United States. 1.6 million cases and close to 93,000 people have died from the virus. New York, that's the state that has the most cases and deaths. Interesting stuff here as you look at our map all across the United States. Every state right now with Alaska's the only one with more than 400 cases. New York State there with 365,000, California with 82,000, Illinois with 98,000 cases. New Jersey, that other big one that's hard hit at 152,000. President Trump is scheduled to meet with the governors of Arkansas and Kansas. You see those two governors on your screen. This is happening at the White House today. They're expected to discuss their state's partnership with the federal government as many states, at last check 49 states, begin the process of reopening. Vice President Mike Pence is going to be in Orlando today meeting with Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida. The two expected to discuss the state's economic reopening. While in Florida, Mr. Pence will also deliver PPE to a nursing home and take part in a discussion with tourism and hospitality officials. United Airlines taking yet another step to make sure that air travel is safe. Flight attendants going to hand out masks and individually wrapped sanitizer to customers. United says it's the only U.S. airline that has a full-time medical director focused on COVID-19. As we're right in the dead smack of this pandemic, a lot of other things are happening, and this one's a big one. As we go to Michigan, an area that has been hard hit by the coronavirus, 52,000 cases, 5,000 deaths. But now there's another massive concern. It's historic flooding. Thousands are having to flee their homes after a river has really come over its banks and dams are breaking. Justin Kohler joins us now from Midland, Michigan. Justin, we were talking a little bit off camera. You can see light reflecting off water. You are wearing what I can only assume are rainproof bibs. I have a feeling you're standing in water in that flood area.
Yeah, that's right, Aaron. We're standing here. We're just off of one of the main roads, off of M20 near Midland. We were a lot closer earlier this morning, about 2.5 miles away. But the Tittabawassee River has breached 2 of those dams, so it wasn't safe for us to get any closer to that city that's most affected by this. Now, at last count, 10,000 people have evacuated so far, but it's a city of roughly 45,000. Now, where I am standing, as you can see, you noted the waders I'm wearing. I'm in someone's front yard, and you can see this home here dealing with at least 3 feet of water. That's what I'm standing in. But I want to show you, if you can see, there's cars that are just stranded out here, like this Buick behind me, and then just one house down right over here, I believe. Yeah, right over here. You can see that house was built a little lower, and the water is past their front door. It's into their house, past their windows and all things like that.
Justin, not a great situation there. I know Chicago is also getting flooding as well, so everywhere around the Great Lakes seeing quite a bit of water. But the concern right now has to be mixing these floods with not only evacuations, but evacuations during isolation and quarantine. How is that being handled in that small community today?
Yeah, as if things weren't challenging enough, right, Aaron? I did speak with a local pastor who opened up his church last night to everyone who was evacuating. It's on higher ground. And they were able to space out everyone who went in there in between the pews, so they were able to sleep on those pews and still safely socially distance themselves at 6 feet. Now, they also had masks to pass out to anyone who was using that church as a place of refuge while these high waters devastate this community.
What is the forecast moving forward as the waters at some point will subside? But this is not a process that is a fast process. It's not like a tornado. It's not like a hurricane where things hit and move on. The cleanup will take some time, but the disaster itself will be a very slow burn.
Yeah, and the National Weather Service also issued a flash flood warning That is in effect until 2:15 this afternoon. So we're still in the middle of it right now. You can see, I mean, it's sunny here right now. There's not a cloud in the sky, actually. But the National Weather Service saying this area is still not safe, as there's still one more dam that could breach. And those two that we mentioned earlier, one of those was issued an unsatisfactory rating back in 2018. So unfortunately, this is something that maybe to some degree could have been prevented.
Justin, thank you so much. Stay safe. We appreciate your time. And, you know, it's amazing to think right now about how we are in the middle of COVID-19. We're isolating, we're distancing, and now those folks there in the northern part of the country are having to deal with flooding. And again, I do want to point out, we've had flooding here in the south. There's been flooding and wildfires. These are things that don't just, using the wildfire example, don't just burn out. They take some time. And when water rises, the things in front of that water or supplying that water has to start drying up, and that's when these other communities can start drying up. So it could be a long path ahead, but of course, add in the difficulty of a pandemic, and things aren't going to be much easier. It's a big feat, though, when a COVID-19 patient successfully turns the corner, turns off the ventilator. But their road to recovery lasts much longer than their stay in the ICU. Here's Maggie Glenn from Austin, Texas.
What they told my wife was that my chances of being successfully extubated, getting off of the ventilator, were somewhere between 30 and 50%.
Stan Lefew beat those odds. He spent 11 days on a ventilator battling COVID-19. Now he's home after being discharged from the ICU last month.
The hardest part of the whole thing is the extreme fatigue that you have. I lost 35 pounds in about roughly 20 days.
The fatigue is common for anyone placed on a ventilator, but COVID-19 patients face more challenges.
In comparison to other diseases like a bacterial pneumonia, is that COVID does affect many other organs. It affects your lungs, certainly. It can also affect your stomach, your kidneys, and especially your brain.
Physical therapy starts in the hospital.
She literally had to teach me how to walk again. It was like my brain would tell my foot to move, and the foot just went into complete rebellion.
Then the recovery continues at home.
Now I can talk without running out of air. But when I first came out, the first couple of weeks, I would start a sentence, and that last 2 or 3 words of the sentence, I'm whispering.
And healing requires more than just physical therapy.
You also need to do more cognitive exercises to help recover some of your brain functions.
Stan now only has a few more weeks of therapy left.
Seeing patients like Stan helps us take care of more patients with COVID.
Bring in Maggie now live from Austin, Texas. Maggie, this is extremely interesting. As we continue to talk about recoveries, the one thing that we don't talk about is once this virus has exited your body, you still got to deal with what was left over and the damage done. Fascinating story here. Did anything when you were telling this story surprise you? Like for me, it was learning to walk again.
Right, yeah. Honestly, the entire story was amazing to hear, and a couple things I wish I could have included in the story itself that I didn't really get to. He said that his taste has completely changed. He said before this disease, he never turned down a French fry in his entire life, but now he absolutely no desire to ever eat French fries again. He said he doesn't even really recognize his own handwriting anymore. So he also lost some fine motor skills. So it's interesting how much this disease also affects your brain.
We've talked to our medical expert about this and about what it does to you cognitively and what it does to you mentally. Obviously, it's one of those things where you've got to recover for some things, but there's some brain function that clearly, in this case, when he's having to relearn to walk, not recognizing his writing, some things are changing internally.
Right, yeah, it's crazy to hear about, and I can only imagine what he's had to go through and what others just like him have had to go through too.
Maggie, before you go though, outside of all that, what was the excitement level when he was given a 30 to 50% chance of taking that ventilator out of his body, that he was one of those that have recovered and he is now in the recovered category and not the active category?
Yeah, he said his wife was so grateful for the doctors and everything, but So his wife was actually battling COVID-19 too, back at home. So she was battling it on her own and had no communication with him while he was on this ventilator. It's a crazy story, and they're both doing totally fine now. And he only has, again, a couple more weeks of physical therapy left.
Maggie, thank you so much. Again, very interesting story to think about. Not only does this thing affect you while you're going through it, you literally have to recover from what it does to your body. Interesting stuff there. Turning to another recovery story, a 58-year-old says it's a sign from God that he's still alive. He spent nearly 6 weeks in the hospital, and he was fighting every single minute. Here's my Owens.
We are praying for you and hoping you find strength with each next day.
Roy Anderson never thought in a million years he would be reading cards from family members, praying he would make it out of the hospital alive.
Life before was very normal, very busy. Work hard, play hard, no problems.
A loving grandfather who found joy in fishing, traveling the world working as a distributor of arcade games. He learned quickly just how quickly the virus can spread.
Well, when it first started after I got back from New Orleans on Friday, he had a headache, fever.
Within 4 days, his symptoms went from bad to worse.
I couldn't eat. I would eat nothing, and my blood sugar was super high.
Diabetic for the past 9 years, Roy has always made health a priority and realized something was gravely wrong.
That's when I couldn't breathe. Every 30 minutes was just getting worse and worse, so that's when I headed down and they got me straight in the emergency room.
Inside the hospital, doctors immediately put him on a ventilator, asking permission to use experimental drugs after a COVID-19 test came back positive.
The virus, it didn't scare me that much until they said, we want to put you to sleep and put you on a ventilator. That was the point of, this is so real. This could be it. I made some phone calls. I said some goodbyes if I had to.
For more than 3 weeks, Roy was in a medically induced coma.
They had me on complete life support. My lungs were providing zero support.
Fighting for his life, his family waiting for this smiling face to come back to life.
It's real easy for me. I just slept through it. Everybody else had to worry. It's scary, very scary.
Finally, prayers answered. Out of ICU, Roy left 50 pounds lighter.
The hospital food was great. Well, except for the ER food was.
Now he can finally look back at all he's been through.
Just in case you need a little reminder, nothing is too big for God. Love you. Be good to your nurses. I thought, well, if we get it, we get it, we get well. I didn't know that it would attack me so hard.
So many good sound bites in that. Those are those little bitty snippets that get you to thinking. Mai joins us from Tyler, Texas. I want to start with one of those. When this guy said it's real. He was going to have to be put in a coma, and his thought was it's real, and I got to tie up some loose ends. I got to say some goodbyes because who knows what's happening. Is that kind of the sentiment you got, is the realization that this thing is not just something that's out there? You need to wear a mask. You need to wear gloves. For those that get it, it is real.
Yes, I definitely think that's the sentiment for a lot of people that I talk to. I mean, you hear about it on the news, you watch all of these media reports, you see what's going on, but it doesn't really hit you unless you or someone you know and love gets it. It's that moment where, okay, I'm positive, but now I'm going to be in the hospital for an extended amount of time. And I think, especially with the cards, he went into the hospital and he said, that's the easy part. That's another soundbite that kind of just hit me hard, because he's under sedation. He doesn't know what's going on. And then when you wake up and you see all of these people praying, all these cards, text messages saying, we don't know if, our grandfather's going to make it. That's when it really hits you and you get a realization of what's really going on. Yeah,
and he talked about one other thing. I thought, well, if we get it, we get well. I didn't know that it would attack me so hard. We've got a story just before yours about someone who had to learn to re-walk after having COVID-19. He didn't know what he was getting into, and I have a feeling that he has a new lease on life now that he has survived this thing.
Yeah, right now he's going through physical therapy because he was on a ventilator for so long and just laying there in the hospital. So now he had to kind of rework his legs and get back to walking and regain his muscle strength. And I mean, I think you're exactly right. It affects people a lot of different ways. It's kind of that unknown virus where one person, it could just be a fever and a cough, and another person, you're on a ventilator for weeks. You just never know.
All right, Maya Owens, thank you so much. Appreciate you taking the time. All over the country, schools and colleges got to come up with unique ways. We got to do unique things, not only to survive isolation, but to celebrate graduates. In Arkansas, one school hit the big screens. Administrators hired a production company to film each student walking across an empty stage to get their diploma. They put all that footage together and played it at the DriveIn movie theater for parents and students.
Graduation is always the last time that all seniors are together for one last time. They'll never be able to together again. So with us being able to do this tonight, this will give them their closure.
Let's bring in Claire Kreitz live from Little Rock, Arkansas. Claire, this story was a little bit outside of Little Rock, Arkansas, still in the central part of the state. But one thing, first things first, were they socially distanced during this movie about graduation?
Yes, they were. Everybody stayed in their cars or had like a chair right outside their car so that they could stay far apart but still watch the graduation ceremony.
From those seniors that you spoke with and you were able to be there and see them walk across the stage, how needed was this for them?
Oh my gosh, extremely. They wanted a graduation ceremony. That's something you look forward to in your high school career. I mean, it's the end of it, you know, and it's the kind of closing chapter. They were really disappointed when they thought they weren't going to get one, and they were so excited that they had it. And honestly, they were really excited to have it on the big screen and watch themselves walk down a big screen.
Did they serve popcorn?
They did serve some popcorn there.
All right, good deal. Claire, thanks so much. Very cool story. Again, we are all left right now with trying to come up with new ways to do the same things. It's that whole cliche, the new norm. In this time of quarantine, many Americans are turning to video games. I did it. I bought a brand new system. A new study shows that eSports global revenues this year surpassed $1 billion for the first time, a big boost already to a booming industry. Experts say it has a lot to do with the shutdown. Again, right at the beginning, I decided I need a new Nintendo Switch. Luckily, I got it. You can't find them now, Steve. I've looked for them. You can't find them. So I've only got 2 games. I need new games. You can tweet me and let me know what games I should get. But here's more on eSports with Anna Warnicki.
When the world hit pause, millions of Americans escaped to a new reality online.
In this time of isolation, video games are the way that people are building a community.
Sports management professor Lisa Narati says people are picking up a controller at a record rate.
It's already a 35% increase in the size of the industry of people watching, playing, buying equipment.
The esports industry has skyrocketed over the last few years, with revenue now surpassing $1 billion. The industry attracts more viewers than most major league sports and has its advantages over other professional sports.
Players are still playing when they're home because they can. And so this is something unique and special about esports.
And the same goes for collegiate sports.
Probably in no small part because everybody's already home and wants something to do.
David Willis is the head coach of esports at St. Edward's University. He says 15 students currently compete on the university's varsity team.
I imagine that number is definitely going to go up.
And he says the season is still going because it can. Willis says tournaments have been pushed through June. So unlike traditional sports,
esports is continuing on. The different leagues are playing. Overwatch League is playing, and it is filling the void.
In Washington, I'm Anna Warnicki.
Thank you so much. I didn't think of this until I was watching that piece. We actually have a professional gamer on our shift. So let's go to our audio room right now. Josh Marshall joins us. Josh, have you seen a spike in folks who are online playing more right now as you're out there doing your thing that you do almost each and every day?
Absolutely. You know, everybody's really getting into the whole gaming scene. Like, you know, you're getting more and more people getting into it. Like, we've got a colleague, you know, DJ Williams, who ended up buying a Xbox, you know, just to play more games with us. So.
All right. Josh, you would do it whether we were quarantined or not, but is it a good way for people to pass the time? And I ask you a lot of questions when I bought my system, and the reason why I got a Nintendo over an Xbox or a PlayStation was simply because I've got small children, and the likelihood is they would be able to play a little bit more of the games. But is this a great use of time right now when you can't do much of anything else?
I mean, I think anything that you enjoy doing is not a waste of time, you know, unless it's like illegal or something. You probably shouldn't do that. But
weird take there, buddy.
But I think, you know, as long as you enjoy doing what you're doing, then it's not a waste of time because, you know, it enriches your life with happiness. And
I agree, and we all need that. Our professional gamer, you can follow him. What's your Facebook? Unique Furniture, is that right?
Unique Furniture Gaming.
Unique Furniture Gaming. If you want to see this guy play actual video games, you can. And that's another thing. Now, you don't just have to buy a video game. You can go watch this guy. I mean, it's crazy things that are happening in this world right now. Josh, thank you. We appreciate you taking the time. Professional gamer there, talking about how the gaming industry, eSports, has really changed. And to be honest, the coronavirus is, you know, kind of getting us to do things. I'm like a kid. I'm playing Mario at home. Boop, 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 boop. I mean, that's what I feel like right now. But hey, we're surviving, and we will get through this, whether it takes games or not. All right, that is our show on this Wednesday. We'll see you back here for a Thursday edition of Newsfeed Now. Have a great afternoon, folks.